What's up, YouTube? This is Big Fish, and this is another reaction video. Today, we're going to talk about Trump administration removing the first female leader of a U.S. military branch. My thoughts on females leading. There's only 3 positions I wouldn't want a female leading. This is just my opinion as well. First is the military. I want a man to lead me into battle. I want somebody I know I can fight side by side. Saying I can't fight side by side by a woman, but there's going to be more complications fighting side by side by a woman, emotion wise, if you're being physical with her, something like that. Physical being like sex or anything like that, excuse my language. And being a bishop or a pastor. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that a woman has ever spoken the word of God. And it goes God above man, man above women, and women above children. That's just how it goes. Just my opinion. And then the third but not least, a president. I would not vote for Tulsi Gabbard, and she's well qualified, and she's serving our military as well as a woman. So those are only 3 positions. Any else, they can be CEOs. They can run their own store and be a GM. They can definitely lead, but in those 3 categories, I can't. Let's get to the reaction.
I want to go now to some breaking news. A Department of Homeland Security official confirming that the Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard has been removed from her position over leadership deficiencies, that was a quote, and operational failures. I have extensively reported on the Coast Guard's cover-up of sexual assault cases. We don't know if that played a role at all in this. CNN's...
That is quite disgusting. And sexual assault is horrible. I know it happens very rampant in the Army and Navy and Coast Guard, just because there's not a lot of women inside of there. So all the men are jumping on those women in there. And we should protect our women and our men, because it can happen to men as well. We have to protect both. We can't let that kind of stuff happen.
Natasha Bertrand joins us now for more. I mean, this is a pretty significant move, Natasha.
It is, Pamela, if not just because it really shows that this could be a sign of things to come in terms of how President Trump and his administration deal with military leaders that they feel are perhaps focusing too much on diversity and inclusion initiatives, which is...
Welcome to the golden age. DEI is dead. We need qualified leaders,
One of the stated reasons, according to this DHS official, why Admiral FAGAN was relieved of her duties as Commandant of the Coast Guard. Now, we did ask the Department of Homeland Security for reasons why she was relieved, and they did send us a list that included...
A list? Damn.
Things like failure to address border security threats, prioritization of those DEI initiatives, which Secretary of Defense, future Secretary of Defense, if he is confirmed, Pete Hegseth has said is going to be one of his priorities in removing from the department once he does get installed here, as well as Operation Fouled Anchor, which is that investigation into sexual assault and sexual abuses committed at the Coast Guard Academy that was covered up by the Coast Guard beginning in around 2018. Now, Admiral FAGAN, she was not directly involved in that. However, she did signal to members of Congress last year when she was grilled on the sexual assault investigation that was not disclosed to Congress that she was...
It was covered up. Why? She already got grilled for it, so I may have to go and react to that. But covered up?
Aware of certain aspects of it, and according to the Department of Homeland Security, that is one reason why they felt like she needed to be terminated as part of her in her position there. But still, you know, I think the broader picture here is that this is the first kind of termination of a senior military leader that we have seen that has been explicitly kind of linked to the promotion of those diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within the military. And in fact, this is not the first time that the Coast Guard has been targeted by Trump's allies. Back in August, former GOP Representative Matt Gaetz sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security raising concerns about FAGAN's alleged focus on these initiatives over, for example, other more important things like, he said, recruiting and focusing on interdicting drugs at the borders.
And if you kept up with Matt Gaetz, you know what they were over there doing. Trying to throw him under the bus when they were grilling him. They tried to get that man with sex with an underage girl.
Senator, thank you so much for coming on. First, your reaction to some of these actions. Go ahead.
No, I think it's appalling that the head of Homeland Security is firing the very Admiral Commandant of the Coast Guard who took this issue.
Of course, Maria is a Democrat because she's appalled. Of course, she's a Democrat.
Of fouled anchor that you guys broke as a story. Why? Because it was being covered up. Literally, issues of sexual assault and sexual harassment at the Coast Guard Academy and at sea, and people covered it up. The only reason we know about it is because CNN broke the news. Now we get a new commandant, the first woman commandant in the history of an armed forces of our nation to serve. She stood up and said, this is a problem and we have to deal with it. And so
she needs to give like a timeline when she said, this is wrong, we should do something about it, instead of just saying she said that. Because she could have said that yesterday. She could have said that 2 days ago, a week ago. Hell, she could have said it today when she got fired. So we need a timeline.
So literally tried to move forward with the right kind of response in the Coast Guard to this issue of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And today she's being fired for, instead of covering it up, deciding that this needed to be exposed and the Coast Guard needed to deal with this issue. So I think it's the wrong decision. It's the wrong decision by Homeland Security. She did a good job. In fact, the last Commandant was the one who did cover it up. I think he admitted to you that he covered it up.
2 cover-ups. 2. The one before her and now her. What are we doing? The leadership. What are we doing?
So what are we doing here today? Firing somebody who was on the job, helping a Coast Guard that has to have a basic diverse workforce. And one of the things they need in a diverse workforce is to protect those interests of women.
And as you know, after the reporting and after there were congressional hearings, she had vowed to do a review, and there was a report that came out saying that it would do a better job with the handling of sexual assault cases and so forth, and really enact systemic change. Are you concerned with her firing, that the vow in that report won't actually be followed through with?
What kind of message are we sending? The previous commandant admitted to you that they had covered it up. I think he even said something like, I would do it again. And now we had a new commandant, a woman who said, no, we're going to take this serious and we're going to clean up the academy and we're going to clean up these actions, because we have almost, I don't know what the number is, a very high number, 30% plus of a Coast Guard workforce that are women, and we want to continue to attract women in the Coast Guard. And so you're going to fire?
She act like it can't happen to man. Like I said before, we have to protect our women. We love our women as men. I do. But we also have to protect men as well. Because it's not like it's just going to happen to one sex. It can happen to either or.
Fire her over the fact that she wanted to clean up a mess created on a previous watch. It's the wrong decision.
And to be clear, she did testify to your committee that, you know,
That's so unprofessional. You got your phone right there in the camera. You can't even hide it. Y'all couldn't do research before and get like a teleprompter or something so you can look like you actually know what you're already talking about? That's crazy.
she only learned of the, quote, totality of the Feldanker probe when we inquired about it, but she clearly was aware of parts of it before because she also fired a commanding officer caught up in the investigation. I also should note, just for our viewers, you know, the reasons cited aren't just this, right? There are other reasons, according to a DHS official, saying it was because of her, quote, failure to address border security threats and, quote, excessive focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know what that latter part means, but if you mean she paid too much attention to cleaning up the mess in the Coast Guard of sexual assault and sexual harassment, there's no amount of time she shouldn't have spent on that. There's no amount of time. She should have done that job and cleaned up the Coast Guard's act on that. But our Coast Guard, very big mission, 5 different major responsibilities, and interdiction of drugs, particularly fentanyl and things of that nature, protecting, you know, illegal fishing, very big issue in the Pacific Northwest, making sure that they participate in the safety and the delivery of our coast. So I do not want to see a commandant serving, you know, every new administration coming in and firing a commandant. You need a continuity of service in the Coast Guard that is really important. And I'm not saying you can't fire somebody. I'm simply saying what is the reason here that this is being done. And I would say people.
They did say they had a whole list of things. I wonder if I looked at that the trial that she had to go through, how they were grilling her, and see if they say anything about that list. I wonder.
People didn't like the fact that she was cleaning up the Coast Guard on this issue of sexual assault and sexual harassment.
You think that's the reason?
I don't know why else you make that decision today.
I pray that Trump gets term limits in here so we can get these old people like her, Bernie Sanders. I know Trump is old, but we need him in this time. He's a masculine man or man's man. We really don't have that lot. It's a lot of feminine man nowadays. I was raised by a single mother, and there's a lot of men out there ringing about single mothers. These boys out here gangbanging, acting crazy and dumb. They're very soft and ready to pull the trigger at any moment. I remember a time where we just fist fight. We didn't need guns to settle our issues, but it's a different age and a different time. And stay strapped. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm about to get me a nice little side piece so I can make sure I'm safe out here. But protect yourself at all times, please, please.
I can cite lots of things that the Coast Guard has been very helpful on very big issues. Look, I hope this administration will get serious about what the Russians are doing impacting our fisheries in the Pacific Northwest. And they are having a devastating blow on this industry. And illegal fishing and illegal movement of these fish with the help of China is a very big issue. So I'd rather have a Coast Guard commandant right now who.
All right, so my last thoughts really is there was also another woman who was grilled, the head of Secret Service, the first time that Trump almost got his head blown off by a man who got up onto a rooftop with a sniper, wasn't checked at all, which is crazy. She was also grilled and she was also fired, and she was also a DEI hire. So like I said, it's a golden age. We're done with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. We're done with it. You have to be qualified for the position. All right, it's Big Fish. I'm out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and leave a comment down at the bottom if you have something to say. Thank you.